Before I talk about the bosses of Nine Souls, I need to say this about the game itself. Go play this masterpiece now. It has one of the best combat systems for a 2D game and is always engaging. Gorgeous visuals and animations, excellent exploration that never gets stale, beautiful soundtrack, and a story that nearly made me tear up at the end. And on top of all of that, some incredible boss battles, which I will be ranking every major boss from worst to best, using the same tiers like in my previous two rankings. So, let's begin. Out of all the bosses in Nine Souls, this one is very notable. Notable for not being good at all. It's kind of a gimmick fight, but it's not a well done one. You have to take down the boss's health to half, then hack one of the systems, do that twice and then kill it for good. That would be fine if the boss wasn't just constantly summoning flying flesh monsters and dogs, which are not fun to fight. And it becomes especially hectic when the jailer shows up. This is a fine enemy on its own, but he doesn't work with other adds that the boss constantly summons. Though you can get rid of the enemies with the bow, which will completely get rid of the annoying adds. Still, I won't make an excuse for this boss. It's stupid and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Jing Tian. God, these names are hard to pronounce. Feels more like a mini-boss rather than one of the major bosses. But even then, some of the mini-bosses are more complex than him. You're stuck in a very small arena and you have to watch out for his slams and electric explosions. And he can from time to time heal himself, which you can stop by attacking him with the talisman. The boss doesn't have any combo variations, but I do like when you dodge behind him, he can just instantly slam his axe. So overall, it's an alright boss. This is quite possibly the biggest jump in quality from the previous two bosses. Goong is one of the major story bosses that keeps one of the souls you're looking for. However, you don't actually fight Goong herself, instead you take on her two minions who are brainwashed, and this is actually a good gang fight. One is small and agile, while the other is slow but hits like a truck, and it works well enough. But the fight doesn't end when you kill both of them. Instead, Goong will fly down and revive them, which allows you to hit her a couple of times to end the fight. And you're incentivized to take one of the minions first, wait for Goong to come by, deal some damage, then take the other minion down. Rinse and repeat till dead. It's a pretty unique take on a classical gang fight, and I'm in for it. Though I wish she had a proper phase 2, which is kind of strange to me since every other major boss pretty much has at least 2 phases. Still, this is a very well done gang fight. The title is actually lying to you since you don't fight Yan Lao directly. Instead, the dude is so weak and pathetic that he uses a giant claw to fight you. His first phase is very simple, just grabs that you dodge, charges that you can parry, lasers moving left and right, and attempting to send a giant explosion, which you can stop by hitting the claw with a charged attack. It's a little too basic, but I like that the intro cutscene tells you what to watch out for. In the end, I forgive its simplistic design in phase 2, where there will be a laser moving left to right, while the claw is still attacking you. So the simple attacks of the first phase are made more complex with the addition of the laser. There is some unpredictability with the attacks where the claw can charge at you 2 to 4 times or grab you more than once. But that's about it. I wish it had like 1 or 2 more attacks to push it to a higher tier. Since I'm not including any mini-bosses on the list, General Yzhao is the first real boss of the game. He will run around the arena, charge at you with the slash, he can slam the ground and poke you with the spear. Any form of dodging here works, so you can just play around with dashing and parrying. The second phase shakes up a bit by adding a red attack that you have to dodge and a fury attack that you can counter with a parry midair, which is basically a Mikiri counter from Sekiro. Later bosses will have these fury attacks as well, but much faster, so Yzhao's slower attack is a great way to get you used to these kinds of attacks. Again, the boss doesn't have any combo variations, but he doesn't need them since he is the first major obstacle you'll face, and I really like his soundtrack. In other words, good introductory boss. G is this game's obligatory spellcaster type boss, only he isn't annoying and his attacks are fun to deal with, like his sword attacks where he will sometimes return them back to you, summoning swords from the ground, and he can attack you with a fury attack. He will also occasionally stop attacking you and summon 3 orbs, and depending on which one you choose, you'll get a different attack, like a vortex or this trophy that will send 2 shockwaves that you have to dodge, or a barrage of knives from both directions. But you can also choose an orb that will give you some health recovery. Second phase adds more complexity to each attack, like how the trophy will send a giant beam followed by a shockwave, the vortex is followed by a shockwave and can send a bunch of knives from all directions. Then those same knives come back to you again, and he can sometimes teleport to a knife he threw at you and follow it up with a slam which will send another shockwave. In general, phase 2 is where the fight gets to A tier territory. Despite him teleporting around like a lunatic, you're given fair openings, so he isn't annoying to deal with, unlike most other spellcaster bosses I had to deal with in the past. And again, the music is really damn good. And don't worry, I will be saying this sentence like 15 more times. I always thought how much potential there was with Yanlao's boss fight. If the claw had like more varying combo finishers and 1 or 2 more attacks, it would have been a great fight. And would you know it? Fangs is exactly that. Its structure is identical to Yanlao. First phase just basic attacks from the boss, and then second phase adding more elements to make the fight more difficult. But the difference is day and night in my eyes. That is because of how many combo finishers the older brother has. You think that once he slams his hand on the ground you'll have an opening. Wrong. You think dodging behind him will give you an easy opening. Think again. That is not to say he doesn't have any openings. He does have, but you must be very careful when do you choose to attack him with the talisman. You can also take the advantage of his red attack where if you hold your parry button and release it at the right time, you'll stun the boss. In my playthrough I only used this type of parry on 2 different bosses. This is one of them. The second phase adds more complexity to an already complex movement with sisters attacks such as the needles, purple orbs or giant snakes, and it makes the fight more engaging and creates some really insane scenarios where you try to avoid the snakes and the brothers' attacks, and is mostly fair. Well, mostly. There are times where I go, what? What the hell was I supposed to do there? Especially with the horizontal snake, I hate that combo. Still, the complexity of the fight pushes it to the middle of A tier. You fight Jiquan first in a battle you're meant to lose, before fighting him for real. He can conjure different weapons such as a sword, a glaive, knives and a spear. He is your equal and can have dirty tricks up his sleeves, like backing away and throwing bombs and trying to heal, which you can stop by using a charged attack. What I do like is if you explored the area prior to him, you can make the fight 10 times easier by poisoning his transmutation crucible, which will make Jiquan cough up blood from time to time. However, in phase 2 he will not be stunned at all and will constantly teleport around and attack with either a spear thrust or an overhead slam. The spear requires a mid-air parry, while the overhead slam requires either a perfect dodge or an unbound counter, and he has more combo mix-ups. But that's why I really like the boss, as you never know what he will do next. It makes the fight more chaotic and unpredictable. Which, if you haven't guessed by now, I love those types of bosses. Look, I'm not even gonna butcher her name, so I will call her just Lady Butterfly, which is fitting considering her design. Duh. This is the first fight to actually have 3 phases instead of usual 2. The first phase is short and simple, but it's by the design, to get you used to her attacks, because in phase 2 we get a fight resembling Sisters of Battle from Hollow Knight. They attack you one at a time, but each attack requires a very different way of avoiding it. Plus, in order to damage the boss, you must find who the real one is, because the clones don't take any damage. What I also like is if you hit the real one with the talisman, the clones won't attack you, which makes it slightly easier to damage the boss. This alone would push Lady Butterfly to A tier. However, it is the third phase that makes this boss incredible. You'll now have 6 clones attacking you, while the real one attacks you after the clones are done with their attacks, with either a giant orb, a delayed slash, or a fury attack. And it's so satisfying to parry the many incoming attacks, it turns into a literal dance. This is also the only boss that genuinely made me feel bad for killing her. Essentially, you learn her backstory while going through this dream type level, which hides a disturbing and an ugly truth. I like that approach of storytelling more than just showing the backstory after the boss was defeated. The arena is incredible, and I love how it gets more and more disturbing with each phase. If I wasn't clear enough, Lady Butterfly is a easy S tier fight. Eigong is a character who has been built up all the way back in the intro cutscene, and I had a lot of expectations for the inevitable encounter. And holy does she meet those expectations. No, scratch that. She over-exceeded my expectations. All of a sudden I was against an opponent who can teleport around, have a lot of combo variations, trickier parry timings, and she can use the talisman on you. She is the pinnacle of the 9 Souls difficulty. I was stuck fighting her for 2 hours straight, but not once did I ever feel like the fight was stupid or unfair. If I wanted to beat her, I had to get good. Parrying is essential here, which I love because I can't get enough of a parry sound. Second phase adds new attacks as well as more combo variations and extensions of already existing attacks, like her grab can now be followed by a double slash combo and then a slam that leaves a fire trail, or only one slash followed by a slam and followed by yet another red attack, which you can always counter with unbound counter. All of this is a lot to handle, but once you figure out her moves it becomes almost methodical. But that is nothing compared to her final phase. If you've done all of the questlines in the game for the true ending, she will have an additional phase. She will start zapping around like a lightning and can do a lot of damage. And it's by far the best attack in the game, I love it so much. Even this attack has different variations which always keeps you on your toes. And she can start this attack at any moment she wants to, which makes her even more unpredictable. Does this sound a lot? Yes it does. But that is why I adore this boss. It asks you to be as perfect as possible, which makes for some really intense moments. It reminds me, in the best way possible, of Ishin and Lu Bu, bosses who demand perfection on your end. Everything here is just perfect, really. Thematically, it's an incredible moment. Mechanically, she has everything a final boss should have, and the soundtrack for her third phase is my favorite in the whole game. Eigong is absolutely top tier. Now the question is she the best 2D boss? Well, I do like her more than most 2D/Metroidvania bosses. I like her more than Valo and Pure Vessel. But is she better than the likes of Darius and Dreamboard Terror, who I consider to be the pinnacle of 2D boss designs? You know what? Yeah, I would say so. She now may take the throne as the best 2D boss I fought. And that's it for 9 Souls. Again, I need you to play this game. It's absolutely incredible and worth your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon in the Land of Shadows.